All right, Alec,
Call
what's
back.
going on?
Ah, I don't know. Things and life
You don't know.
and work
Hmm.
and playing games and watching movies and
Well,
all that jazz.
I'll just say recently, as in a couple hours ago, I sat down and watched this movie from what year was it? 1996,
1990, 97, 97.
1997. It's
Yep.
called Good Will Hunting. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
Yeah, I just sat down and watched it for the first time last night.
wow,
Yeah.
that's a crazy
Wow.
coincidence, actually.
Crazy coincidence. It's almost like we didn't plan this.
Wow, what are
Yeah.
the odds? It's like
Yeah.
22-year-old movie. Wow.
Yeah. How about that?
Okay, and the late great Robin Williams stars in
Mm-hmm.
this, as well
Mm-hmm.
as Matt Damon, a
Yep.
little bit of Ben Affleck,
Casey Affleck,
a little
his
bit
little
of
brother.
yeah, I got a couple of Afflecks.
Minnie Driver is in it.
Yes,
Stellan Skarsgård,
yes,
who I love.
sure,
And that's it in terms of like known names, I
yeah,
think.
pretty much. So, what did you think of this movie, huh?
Well, I didn't really know exact. I mean, I think I kind of knew the general premise, um, but I didn't know exactly how it was going to play out. I suppose like I knew the general premise that Will Hunting was essentially a savant, the character Matt Damon plays. But I didn't know I guess I didn't know like what the conflict or the idea of the movie was. Other than that, I kind of just knew that.
Right.
And that Robin Williams is a therapist and was sort of like dealing with that. But basically, from there, I had no idea what the movie was about. But I really enjoyed it quite a lot. I have a newfound realization that I really like movies set in and around Boston.
Okay.
Um, Manchester by the Sea is a film that came out a couple years ago that I also really enjoyed. Casey Affleck is in that one. But I find myself, I mean, I guess similar to that though. I find myself really finding myself like really relating to like not necessarily that because obviously I live in a rural area far 2 hours north of Boston. So I guess it's kind of weird to say that I often find myself really relating to the characters in that way of life. It might simply just be I lived down in that area for 4 years. I didn't necessarily get out as into that environment as much, but I knew plenty of people in college just like those people. Like
Hmm.
I knew people like that. I still know people like that. Knowing that my family's lived in New England my entire life, there's a part of me that kind of resonates with the working class, the kind of the down and out Joes that just do their job, and not necessarily the most educated people in the world, but they're kind of the good old boys, you know. There's something I don't know if it's I don't know if it's weird. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about it that really resonates with me a lot. Like there's something that I feel like I can relate to, even though I don't haven't necessarily experienced any of that kind of stuff. You know, any of the street violence or the going out with your buddies and drinking till 1 o'clock in the morning and then come back home and rinse and repeat, do
Hmm.
the same thing every day. But I, there's just something about that like that attitude or that mentality that sort of is ingrained in this part of the world, I guess. And maybe that's why I've kind of taken a shine to movies that depict that. So that in and of itself, just that alone, already I was enjoying the movie from the get go.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think the relatability is a big thing. Even I'm not like from Boston or that area, but I can still
mhm.
relate definitely just to the general mentality of it. And I think obviously both of us can relate to being natural born geniuses, of course. it's just it's a burden. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
no,
just see things and they just come naturally, you know?
but that's the thing that's interesting is that you have this character who's a natural genius, which most people cannot relate to,
Mhm.
and yet there's still so many relatable things about his position and the characters around him at the same time. It's like, and there's a lot of really cool moments in this movie, like specific scenes that I thought were just really cool. A lot of great dialogue
Yeah.
and monologues too. It's some cool stuff.
Yeah, there was one scene that I was aware of, and unfortunately, it's actually like one of the most pivotal scenes in the movie, and I'd seen it before.
Which one was that? I've seen one before too, actually.
It's not your fault.
Oh, I didn't see that one
Yeah,
actually.
that but having a full context of it really hits you so much harder when you actually have the context of that whole scene. The entire movie
Yeah,
builds up to that. The entire movie builds up to that. So I guess having that sort of spoiled, but like again, because I didn't really necessarily know the context, I didn't remember the whole way the scene played out. I just remembered Robin Williams saying it's not your fault over and over again.
yeah.
Um,
I had seen the park, the speech in the park
yeah,
from,
it's
from
like you're
Robin
just
Williams.
you're just a kid.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was one of my film classes probably showed that scene, though I didn't really remember it at all until like they got into the park and I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing
yeah.
this.
I mean, that's an amazing, amazing monologue
Yeah,
for sure. That's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, actually.
yeah.
Um,
I wrote down there were like specific scenes. There was that one, the park speech, the "It's Not Your Fault" one, the the bar interaction in the beginning is a cool one too,
yeah,
and
the very first time that he meets Minnie Driver,
yep,
Skylar, I guess is her name.
Skylar, yeah.
Yeah,
Boston Red Sox story, that was a cool one too,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then kind of
My dad was at that game, by the way.
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was actually at that game. So
But that was so cool. Just Robin Williams' delivery of that is so good too.
yeah,
And then I really liked the whole Mozart Beethoven thing he said too, where he was like how they see a
yeah,
piano and they just know how to work it. And it's just like
yeah.
how he really describes how his mind works.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are some of my favorite scenes. There's like specific, very memorable scenes, which often
Yeah,
I don't have those like specific scenes that I can point to in a lot of movies, but this
Mhm.
one, for sure.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest strengths I found with this movie is exploring the relationships between all of the characters. So it's not just focused on it's not completely focused on just Will Hunting's relationship with everyone else, but I really liked how it also explored. I can't remember the characters' names,
Mm-hmm.
but Robin Williams' character and Stellan Skarsgård's character, their history and their relationship
Yeah,
was just absolutely
Sean
fascinating. Sean,
Lambo, Professor, is it like
Professor,
Professor Lambo or something like that?
something like that. Yeah, yeah. Their past, their history and relationship was really fleshed out, like through little bits and pieces throughout the story. And you could kind of understand once you saw the full picture. You kind of then got why, you know, Sean's whole attitude when he first starts interacting. You kind of understand like why that is.
Hmm.
Um,
And I think it was interesting. I was really well, spoilers by the way, but I was
yeah,
really
for this 22-year-old movie.
yeah. Well, we say that, but if I got spoilers to this, I'd be like, dang, I didn't see that movie.
Yeah, yeah,
But the Skarsgård's character, I was really expecting to just straight up be the bad guy by the end of it,
yeah,
like just
yeah.
be like
Me too.
completely
Me too.
hated.
Yeah,
And it's like you obviously are kind of rooting against him in some ways, but he's definitely more complex than I expected.
yeah,
I thought he was just gonna be like typical bad guy, like oh yes, he must
yeah,
manipulate this child and to do what
yeah,
I want.
yeah. But
So I thought that was
no,
cool.
he's a lot. Yeah, he's a lot more fleshed out than just the mustache twirling villain.
So
He doesn't have a mustache.
yeah, I think the actors all did a really great job in this too. Like
Oh wow, yeah,
you really get to see
totally.
Robin Williams' versatility, and I thought Matt Damon was great as the lead role too. Other than that, I thought there were some cool editing techniques they did throughout it too.
Yes. Yeah, well,
Like
the opening scene really stands out. Like the credits with a kaleidoscope effect. I really like that a lot. And they kind of harken back to that a few times throughout the movie,
hmm
which I found really cool. Um,
yeah, and there was one scene when he was like at that meeting with the NSA, and they like
mhm.
transitioned mid speech into the therapy session, which
Yeah,
it's like it was brilliant on a lot of different levels because it showcases like his perfect memory because he like perfectly recited the speech the same
yeah,
way and just like perfectly
yeah.
transition. I barely noticed that it switched over into the.
Same. That was really awesome. I liked that a lot too.
It did a couple cool things like that throughout the movie.
Another one was the the ending, the final scenes of the film where they kind of shot, or they kind of cut to different periods chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like that a lot too. I think that whole ending scene works best the way that they did it. If they just played out all those scenes to their completion, it wouldn't have been as satisfying. Whereas you get to see the progression of each character coming to the conclusion of like their story, part of the story arc, essentially.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. That was very cool.
And just some interesting ways they handled in general, like the way it ended, where you don't see him like go reunite with Skylar and like apologize and everything. Like you don't
Yeah,
see that full scene. Like I expected, kind of a cliche. Oh, he's gonna regret and go back, and he did do that, but he didn't. You don't see like the
it's
actual
just
results of
him
it.
him just driving. Just
Yeah.
driving is the end of the movie. Yeah, I kind of like that it didn't necessarily we didn't necessarily need to see that, even though even though Minnie Driver gets the short end of the stick, because the last scene we see her in is she's sobbing,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. She was great. She's a great. She's a great
Yeah,
character though.
she is. Yeah, yeah. A ton about like she's certainly not. I didn't think she was like super by the numbers or anything either. That was the thing that was really cool, is that all these characters felt really fleshed out and not just, they could have been far simpler,
Mm-hmm.
kind of almost archetypal, when they sort of fit kind of the niche or the archetype of what they need to serve for the film. But I thought they were complex enough that they sort of overcame that, or weren't just in that box.
Mm-hmm.
They were definitely above and beyond that.
Yeah,
So
like uh, Will's friends are what in high school my friends would describe them as goons. They're typical
the
goons, and I was
Yeah,
like, okay,
kind
but
of.
probably by the end of this movie, like these goons are gonna be like really bad, and he's gonna have to like completely cut off ties with them because he'll like have a complete change of mind or something. Is what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But the fact they actually stuck with these goons and kept them as his friends still is pretty cool.
And that right there is something that, like, again, that kind of that resonating thing, that loyalty is like, that's such a Boston thing and an Irish Catholic thing.
Yeah.
This like it's that's like really ingrained with your boys, your friends, you people you're really close with. You stick by them through no, basically no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, that was really cool. I really liked how they didn't, again, how they didn't do that. Yeah, I liked how they stuck with him like that, or he stuck with them, and kind of like what Sean sort of said in that part, where it's like, do you know why he spends time with them? And it was just like, because they're so loyal to him. If he asked anyone, they'd kill some guy that was roughing him up in a second without hesitation. Like
Yeah.
that's how close they are. That's why he can trust them, essentially.
So yeah, I'm really glad we picked this movie because we just kind of picked it at random. It was on Netflix.
Yeah, it was a real treat, honestly.
Yeah.
Really fascinating score also.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah, I
the,
thought that
the
too.
music, it wasn't. It was interesting because it's Danny Elfman, so I was expecting very very much like Elfman fare, but it was like really atonal in a lot of places and almost made you uneasy, which I think sort of led to the whole, like, I think at least it sort of helped you put you a little bit in Will's shoes a little bit, just because he doesn't really connect with people, or is scared of connecting with people, and so being out in the world and almost talking with people makes him uneasy. So the score kind of, to me anyway, was sort of complementary to that, because it was making it during certain scenes where it was mostly, when it showed up, it was kind of focused on him, and it kind of made you uneasy a little bit just because of how, the resolutions and the chord progressions were just like didn't happen or were weird. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely a movie that'll stick with me. There's a lot of cool stuff and like
Absolutely.
really really powerful scenes that like I was surprised by how much I was into it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Robin Williams is just a national treasure. So
Yeah, absolute tour de force. Like, this is a great example of his skill set. He wasn't He wasn't comedian in this. I mean,
Yeah.
he did have funny stuff to do, but he was a dramatic tour de force for sure.
Yeah, it was
Like,
like very little of the like the typical Robin Williams. It was
yeah.
very much like there was no like super over the top stuff like he's known
Hmm.
for.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I compare it to Eternal Sunshine for Jim Carrey kind of thing.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that,
I have not.
but
No.
it's like Jim Carrey's more serious role.
The series uh Jim Carrey, was it him in The Majestic as well? Was that Jim Carrey?
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Trying to remember it. The Majestic. I know. Well, he was in that, and then he was also in Truman Show.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
which
was him in that
I
one.
mean, he was kind of serious, but that was still very exaggerated Jim Carrey.
Yeah, it was.
Like, hello.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good movie though.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's what we're here to talk about.
yeah. We're here to talk about the Truman Show, right?
So
Okay.
okay.
So overall score, what would you give this?
Overall score, 9 out of 10. I think this was
Yeah,
really good.
yep. That's about what I give it too. Yeah, 9 out of 10 was what I was thinking. Also,
Okay. That
excellent,
works.
excellent film. I think this is definitely a bucket list film. If you haven't seen it, do
Yeah,
yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor and watch it. It's very good.
and
Yeah,
that's the crazy thing with movies is that there's so many of these gems out there that you can so easily, like we did, just not ever think to
Get it
watch. And then
right.
if we didn't just do this random thing, we might have never watched it.
Yeah,
So it's really cool. We should definitely do more of these, just like watching random movies.
absolutely.
Find those gems out there.
This to me is, yeah. I think this is going to help me get through my backlog of
Yeah.
movies for sure. Because there are a lot. I look at my Netflix list and I'm like, dang, there's so many of these classics that I haven't seen yet. And yeah, I think I agree. I think we should keep doing this
Yeah.
because it's fun to talk about and fun to do too. So you can
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. There it is.
Tarqaron
Watch it.
score. All right. So thanks for watching.
All right.
And have a good day. Well,
Close enough.
soon we'll just be perfectly in sync.
That's right.